The jackpot is $100 million, so maybe you should all get together some money and buy me some tickets. You have a better chance of getting struck by lightning. It's easy to do if you hold a big metal pole up in the rain. Corey Harrison's motorcycle accident wasn't just an accident, it was a dangerous jump at 40 mph. He has had family fights, serious health problems, and legal problems, but 2024 was the worst year of all when his brother Adam died of an overdose. As you watch, keep an eye on Corey the Pawn Star's favorite, because if the rumors are true, this could be his toughest fight yet. Fame comes with a terrible price. It may look like he's been living the dream, big money deals, rare treasures, TV fame, but behind the scenes, there's chaos, pain, and a string of bad luck that won't go away. He's had to deal with family drama, weight battles, tragic losses, and now yet another run-in with Despast. This time, though, everything is on the line. Negotiations. He grew up on the shop floor of Gold and Silver Pond with his legendary grandfather, Richard Harrison, and his dad, Rick. By the time the cameras started rolling in 2009, he had already been working hard in the business for years. But while people watched him deal with overpriced antiques and questionable memorabilia, his real life was getting a lot messier. For starters, he wasn't happy just cleaning glass cases. He wanted ownership, respect, and control, so he pushed hard for it. He even threatened to leave the shop at one point. In exchange, he got a measly 5% stake in the business. If you don't do drugs, get a good education, and don't have kids outside of marriage, you just cut your chances of being poor by 95%. It wasn't a king's ransom, but it was something. Then there were his health problems. He was over 400 pounds before he realized that diabetes was knocking on his door, and he wasn't going to say no. He chose the dramatic route and had lap band surgery. Things were finally looking up until he was in a motorcycle accident that turned into a full-on mid-air EV evacuation. He was speeding down the road at 40 mph when something went horribly wrong, forcing him to jump off his own bike. Think about that for a second. He wasn't falling or skidding out, he was literally bailing out on a moving motorcycle at highway speeds. Most people would have been rushed straight to the hospital, but he went back to his birthday party first. When he finally went to the doctor, they had to use plates and screws to put his hand back together. It was a rough way to celebrate another year alive. And just when you thought that was the end of the trouble, in 2023, Las Vegas police pulled him over because they said he was swerving all over the road and smelled like alcohol. He said he had only one drink hours before, but the breathalyzer and sobriety test didn't believe him, and blood samples proved he was over the limit. He wasn't about to take that lying down and make a plan to fight it, but the damage had already been done. Another bad headline, another round of public scrutiny, and I fell in love with reading. I remember when I was about 10 years old and my older brother told my siblings and me that we should read more, but nothing could compare to what happened in 2024 when Adam, his younger brother, died of a sudden, devastating overdose. The news hit like a freight train. Adam and Train may not have been on TV together, but they were blood relatives, and losing Adam broke everything. The Pawn Star's world seemed a lot less important after that. Despite everything, he keeps going, running the shop, making deals, and trying to stay on his feet. But rumors of another health scare are going around. Some say he had a stroke. Others say it's something just as serious. Whatever the case, one thing is clear, his story isn't over, by a long shot. The pawn shop, fame, and money all come at a cost. Fourth, 34. For him, the stakes keep going up. The million-dollar question is whether he can cash in one last time and come out on top, but that's only part of the story. This isn't just a string of bad luck, it's a full-on saga of twists and turns, and the man's life has never been and never will be easy. He's had to deal with money problems, family fights, business betrayals, and a personal journey that is as raw and relentless as it is dramatic. The surgery changed everything, but it wasn't a magic bullet. Discipline, making big changes to his lifestyle, and a long-term commitment to staying healthy. Just as he started to get back in control of his body, life hit him harder than ever. Corey had been in trouble before, but this felt different. The rumors pointed to something bigger, like secrets and an unexpected injury. Now, with rumors of health problems circulating, he is once again at a crossroad. He's been through a lot, but he's still standing, dealing, and trying to make sense of a life that won't follow the rules. 5:45. How much more can he take, and is there still time to turn things around? The guy's used to taking risks. Whether he's working behind the counter at the store or trying to end his own life, but this wasn't a harmless fall. We're talking about something that could have consequences beyond a few stitches and aspirin, and the way the story is going, it's very messy. First, let's get one thing straight. He's tough, he's been through his fair share of chaos, and he usually just shakes it off like it's nothing. Reports say that what at first seemed like an accident may have more layers than anyone thought. The kind of layers that make you raise an eyebrow and start asking some serious questions. For starters, the circumstances of the incident don't fit the way they should have. Officially, it's been called an accident, but when you dig a little deeper, there are some details that just don't add up. Some say it was just a moment of bad luck, while others say it was more than that. The problem is that no one is talking, and when people don't talk, you have to wonder what they don't want you to know. Let's break it down. He was living his life as usual when all of a sudden everything changed. At first, the story was simple. Something went wrong, he got hurt, and that was the end of it. But then there were the whispers, the kind of whispers that make you wonder if there's more to the story. Some people say there were warning signs before the accident, while others say there weren't, are pointing to outside factors that may have played a part. And here's the kicker. Some people are saying this may not have been an accident at all. Now, let's not jump right into conspiracy mode, but you have to admit that where there's smoke, there's usually fire, and right now, there's a lot of smoke. People close to him have said that he wasn't in the best of moods before the accident. Whether it was stress, outside pressures, or something else, no one is willing to say, but there is a serious injury that makes you wonder how it happened and, more importantly, why. For example, there is only one TV in the house, even though it's 1973 and there are 3 TV stations, so there's nothing for a kid to watch during the day. If there's more to this story than meets the eye, then that means, unfortunately, the official explanation is just bad luck. But when was the last time bad luck came with a side of secrecy? Something is wrong here, and it will stay that way until we get the whole story. What's next for him? That's the big question. If this turns out to be just bad luck, he'll get over it. But if there's more to it than that, this is just the start. One thing's for sure, this isn't over by a long shot. In the days before the accident, he was seen in town looking less focused than usual. Some say he was on edge, constantly looking over his shoulder, which could have been due to stress at work. However, it's also worth noting that some of his closest friends and coworkers were unusually quiet, not wanting to talk about what was going on in his life at the time. Finally, the accident happened in a place that wasn't exactly where you'd expect something like this to happen. It wasn't a high school. There were no obvious dangers in the area that could have caused it, which brings up another question. Was he the only one there when it happened? If there was someone else there, they could have been a witness, an accomplice, or someone with a reason to keep things quiet. People love a good mystery, but in real life, unanswered questions usually mean someone is hiding something. In this case, there are too many gaps to ignore. If everything was clear, there wouldn't be so many questions. Many people who should know were hesitant to say what they thought. I started calling the city statute office once a week to find out what was going on. Another thing that doesn't make sense is how the story changed. At first, it was just an accident, but then a few small details changed. The timeline was slightly changed and the events were described differently. This doesn't happen unless someone is trying to control the story, and when someone is trying to control the story, there's a reason for that. Injuries like this don't just happen. And the way his accident is being handled makes it seem like a piece of the puzzle is missing. People who were quick to speak at first are now keeping quiet, which should make anyone suspicious. What's the end game here? Does someone have something to hide? Is he himself being kept in the dark about something? The only thing that's certain is that this accident happened, and as clear-cut as it seemed at first, and until the whole story comes out, rumors will only get stronger. Some people might just chalk this up to bad luck, but others are paying close attention because when things don't add up, there's always a reason and the truth always comes out, whether people want it to or not. With each new detail, the story keeps shifting, and the more it shifts, the clearer it is that there's more going on than meets the eye. It could have been an accident, or it could be something bigger that changes everything. Either way, this isn't the last time we'll hear about it. He thought he had reached rock bottom, but Adam was gone. This pain wouldn't go away, and he couldn't save his brother. Corey Harrison had been through some rough times before, but nothing could have prepared him for hearing the heartbreaking news that his younger brother Adam had died without warning or a second chance. Adam had always kept his promises. 1150, away from the spotlight, the person who chose a quiet life over the chaos of reality TV was suddenly just a memory. He was barely 40 years old, but his story had already been ripped from the pages of newspapers and magazines. This wasn't just another headline or another bad day in his unpredictable life. This was a different kind of loss that you couldn't just push through or put a band-aid on. Adam's death wasn't just a family tragedy. Tragically, it was a wake-up call that hit him right in the gut. For years, the two brothers had gone their separate ways. One was in the pawn shop grind, wheeling and dealing on camera, while juggling the madness of fame. Adam, he didn't want any part of that circus. He was a plumber who lived a life away from flashing cameras, autograph hunters, and reality TV dramas. He never haggled over rare coins or argued about the authenticity of old swords, but that didn't make him any less of a Harrison. When the news came out, it felt like everyone held their breath and never let it go. Their father, Rick Harrison, sent a short, heartbreaking message saying, "You will always be in my heart. I love you, Adam." There was no way to soften the blow, and they would never be able to get over it. Adam's death would always be a wound that would never heal for his brother. The pain wasn't just grief, it was guilt that crept in late at night, whispering doubts that he couldn't shut out. What if he had paid more attention? What if he had been there when it really mattered? The question kept going through his mind and wouldn't go away. Then it hit him. Adam hadn't just died. It wasn't an accident or some random turn of events. Protecting and serving the Emperor was one of the highest honors. Coming from a samurai family, you didn't get more respect than walking down the streets. It was an overdose that changed everything. It wasn't just a loss. It was something that could have been avoided. He couldn't have. Adam was suffering in silence. Was there something he or anyone else could have done before it was too late? For a moment, his pain poured out in an Instagram post. The words weren't planned or polished. They were just raw grief for everyone to see. They weren't meant to sound wise or careful. They were a desperate attempt to show that this loss was real and that Adam wasn't just another number in a growing crisis. His life mattered. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. This epidemic wasn't new. It had been going on for a long time, as a wave of unstoppable destruction swept through cities, destroying families for years. And now it had taken his brother. He wanted to scream at the system, at the dealers, at the pills that didn't give second chances. He wanted to call it out for what a nightmare it was, and for a second he did. He posted his fury online, but he quickly took it down. Maybe it was too raw, or maybe he wasn't ready to make a public war out of his private hell, or maybe he was just too lost in grief to know what to do, so he buried himself in work. The pawn shop became his distraction and a way to feel some kind of normalcy. But let's be honest, nothing felt normal anymore. The daily grind, the customers, the TV cameras, everything felt empty and noise. Every time he tried to put on a good face, he felt like he was faking it, because in a way he was. The rumors spread like wildfire, with people saying they knew the truth and putting together pieces of a story that no one fully understood. Some said there was more to Adam's story. 54 had been fighting unseen forces long before anyone noticed. As the rumors spread, they twisted and grew, creating a version of events that blurred the lines between fact and fiction. Adam, caught in the middle of it all, didn't know what to believe. One thing he did know was that grief didn't go away. It ate into every part of his life and made him rethink everything, his choices, his future, and what really mattered. Because Adam's death had shown him that time was never a guarantee. 16.27. It's very important to take your time and look carefully because the devil is in the details. Of all the battles he had fought, his weight problems, his near-death experiences, and his legal problems, this was the one he couldn't win. This was a fact that he couldn't outmaneuver, negotiate, or fix with a good deal. Adam was dead, but he didn't want his brother's name to become just another sad story. Adam deserved more than that. He was more than a statistic, and maybe if he found the right words, 17-2, if he spoke up and made this pain into something important, he could stop another family from going through the same nightmare. Because one thing was clear, keeping quiet had never helped anyone, and Adam's story needed to be told for him and for everyone else who had died because of this crisis. At the end of the day, the only things that mattered were the memories, the love, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, this loss wouldn't have been in vain. The weight of grief sat heavily on his chest, pressing into him, 1735, He would never hear Adam's voice again. There would be no more random calls, no more catching up over beers, no more brotherly jabs or inside jokes. That part of his life was sealed off, locked in the past, and impossible to get back. Days turned into weeks, and the haze of loss didn't lift. In fact, it got thicker. He kept replaying every conversation and interaction, thinking that there must have been some kind of warning that he had missed. People said that time healed wounds, but he wasn't buying it. Time didn't bring Adam back. 1815 answered the questions that kept bothering him. Time didn't fill the hole in his life, but it did sharpen his focus. He started reading more about the crisis that had killed his brother. The numbers were horrifying. Thousands of lives were lost, families were torn apart, and stories were cut short. It wasn't just Adam. It was an epidemic that was killing people one by one. He wasn't the type of person to sit back and do nothing. That wasn't his style. He had spent his whole life making moves. 1853, a name carving his own path. And now he had a new mission to make sure Adam's story wasn't lost in another wave of overdoses. He started talking more openly and sharing what he could to raise awareness, because Adam's death had to mean something. It had to be a turning point that made people pay attention. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.